Good morning, class. I will explain to you about material, the same of material in this last week. Some material it is passive voice or passive sentences, before text, and then conditional sentences. Okay, next, in this time, I will repeat to you about the material to get start of in Bahasa in this mid semester. Okay, in this time, the first of passive sentences. Okay, what is it? It's a sentences in which the subject does not perform the action of the verb. So, please prepare of your book and pencil to write of my questions. In this my questions, number 1 is what is it passive voice except of this definition? What is definition of passive voice? Okay, next, passive sentences or passive voice has a characteristic that in a by statement use of by to get who is an agent. Okay, in this time, number 2 is what other characteristic of passive sentences? Okay, number 3, or for example, is Anita was driven to the theater by Carla. It is for example of passive sentences. Other, number 3 is give some example of passive sentences. Okay, next, passive sentences has a time reference to make the sentences. Passive sentences has a times reference. In other is number 1 simple present tense, present continuous tense, present perfect tense, simple past tense, past continuous tense, and the third other is past future perfect tense. Okay, in number 4, I want you to give some example of simple present tense sentences, present perfect sentences. Okay, in number 4, you want to make a sentences of simple present tense and then present perfect tense. Next, conditional sentences. In conditional sentences, same of passive sentences, you have to looking for definition of conditional sentences. What I mean in this text, conditional sentences are sentences expressing factual implications or hypothetical situation. It is description by me, and then of you, can you describe of what this is conditional sentences? Give me explain about this. Okay, the third 3 conditional sentences has 3 types. It is part of type 1 refers to a possible condition and its probable result. The sentences are based on fact and they are used to make sentence about the real world and about particular situations. Okay, in this time, in number 5, give me example of type 1. Okay, for example, it is of tenses is if simple present to simple future. It is for example of based on the fact and the real world of particular situations. Okay, for these times, give me example of type 1 based on tenses. It refers to possible condition based on facts. Okay, number 7, type 2. Express things in the future that are unlikely to happen. Then it is used to express an idea that is not true because it is impossible. Okay, in this time you need to make 2 sentences of type 2 based on the tenses if simple past to simple past future. Okay, before we get to 7 questions, you have to understanding about what is it conditional sentences. If any question, please give me suggest and then questions about that. Next, type 3. Same of type 1 and type 3. In number 8, you make a question or sentences of type 3. Express a past idea that didn't occur. It means that sentences express an imagined result of that past event that didn't occur. Okay, perhaps you understand about how material in the conditional sentences in explain of type 1, type 2, and type 3. Okay, in type 1, type 2, and type 3, in the next questions, please make a sentences of conditional sentences in type 3. Number 9. Okay, based on is past perfect to past future perfect. I will give notes of type 1, type 2, and type 3. In type 2 and type 3, we must to include of would, could, or might, and then to follow of have or has, and then verb 3. Next, okay, factual reports. Last week, I will give explanation about factual reports. Perhaps in under you can make what it is a factual report. I will give some repeat of definition like this. Report is a text that describes the way things are general. It is usually referred to a result of systematic observation and analysis. So in this time, in number 10, give me example or and then explanation about report text. Okay, it is time or definition by me and then give me example and explanation about what is it report text. Okay, in mid semester you will make to search or looking for of definition factual report. Okay, the same of description text. Description text is what our like, and then what is general classification or report and description text is same. For example, is general classification starting classification of general aspect of things, animal, public place, friend, etc., which will be described in the general. And then the description is describing the characteristic of the object which will be discussed in detail. The characteristics in this case are form, parts, quality, behavior, etc. For example, in this description text, for example, I will give my father is bike. Bike is red. It is for example of description. But in report text, bicycle is a wheel of transportation. For example, in the report text is the general, but in the description text it is for some classification to make what our like. Okay, but in this time, both of description and then report has a characteristic and then generic structure for the same. Generic structure it is general classification and then description. Okay, next is language feature of the report and descriptive text has a same. For number 1 is describing group of the general aspect or general participant. The second is using conditional logical connection. For example, the second is logical connection for the same of conjunction. For example, is when, so, and then finally, and then etc. Okay, and number 3 is using simple present tense. For last week, we can to do what it is simple present tense. Simple present tense to do use of today and then to nowadays. Okay, the to be is do or does. He, she, it, he make to does, and then I, we, they, you, it to make it do. Okay, and then next I will give for example of report text. it is, for example, a factual report. You can make a read in this type. And then for number 11, give me example of factual report. Okay, I will next in this material of passive sentences. I will repeat some questions to do your answer. I will give your time for the afternoon. Okay, number 1 is give sentences or give a definition about what is it passive sentences. Okay, and then number 2 is passive sentences has characteristic that in a statement used of by, right? So give me example other example of what is it a characteristic of passive sentences, like by of me give this is characteristic to get who is an agent. Okay, and the third, okay, I will give example Anita was driven to the theater by Carla. It is my example. So, and number 3, give some example of passive sentences. And then number 4, okay, passive sentences has a time reference to make sentences. It is order number 1 and then number 10. Simple present tense has a subject are on is verb 3 and then by agent, which we in the present perfect tense has a subject have or has plus been verb 3 and then by agent. So in this number 4, make a sentences by simple present tense and then present perfect tense in passive sentences. Number 5, okay, conditional sentences. Conditional sentences are sentences expressing factual implication or hypothetical situation, and their consequence. There are 3 conditional sentences types. It is by of my explanation. So, can you make some description of conditional sentences? Please give me about it. Okay, and then number 6, type 1. Type 1 is part of conditional sentences, refers to a possible condition and its probable result. These sentences are based on facts and they are used to make a statement about the real world and about particular situation. For example, if it rains, you will get wet. It is my explanation and then example. So in number 6, give some example of type 1. Okay, type 2 express things in the future that are likely to happen. Then it used to express an idea that is not true because it is impossible. Perhaps you can make 2. What is it type 2? Last week I had to explain to you about what this is type 2. So in this number 7, make a sentences about type 2 based on if simple past tense and then simple past future. With notes, in type 2, we would could make it so important, okay, to make these sentences. And then number 8, type 3. Same of type 1 and type 3. Type 2. You have to make about that example, other example. Okay. Beside of if I had listened, I would have not gotten lost. Okay. In next questions, factual report. Report is a text that describes the way things are in general. It is usually referred to result of systematic observation and analysis. It is my explanation to you. So, beside other, can you explain about that of report text? So, give me description of report text. Next question, generic structure of report text. has two generic structure of report text. For example, it's general classification, starting classification of general aspect of thing, animal, public place, plant, etc., which will be described in the general. Okay, for next is description, describing the characteristic of the object, which will be discussed in this detail. Characteristic in this case are form, parts, quality, behavior, and design. For the next questions, give me example of factual report text. Okay, based on is language feature of report. Language feature of report and description is same of the way. Okay, number one is describing group or general aspect, general participant, and the second is using conditional logical connection, for example when, so, finally, first, etc., and the third is using simple present tense. So in the last questions, what is simple present tense? Okay, I will wait of your answer to this afternoon. It is for have the point of mid semester. If any question, please give me suggest, and then if understand, please give me subject of via WhatsApp. Okay, it is some question of that your answer. I will give it of afternoon. Thank you for attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.